Movie starts and the first thing we see is a gibberish language that's kind of like Arabic, but not really. We see a clown shoot water onto what looks like a dictator's face and he immediately shoots him. This is an allegory to the short temper of dictators. They kill whoever, whenever they want, even over a stupid trick like this. Off with his head. We meet our main character, General Ala ad-Din. His name is a play on the Arabic name Ala ad-Din or Aladdin. He's being played by Sasha Baron Cohen. Cohen has built a career on doing minstrel shows. He picks a culture, dons a costume, and performs the most toxic stereotypes known about that culture to satisfy the audience's worst biases. He calls it comedy, but it's really textbook propaganda. His most common targets are Muslims. Ali G parodies British Muslim early 2000s chav culture. Borat is Muslim coded to weaponize fear of the dirty foreigner. Now we have Aladdin. By making him an Arab dictator, the movie ensures the audience knows the punchline before the first frame even flickers. Make no mistake, he isn't here to challenge your perspective or craft a grand satire that reveals hidden prejudices. He's here to indulge them, to perform them. He uses the satire label as a get out of jail free card to broadcast the very bigotry he claims to mock. That's his true desire, to turn systematic racism into a playground for profit. You may say I'm stretching, but let's look into Cohen's background. Maybe it'll give us insight into his intentions and message. Cohen grew up in West London and was active throughout high school in Habonim Dror, a Zionist youth group. He was very Zionist. Very involved in Habo, said the fellow Israel seminar participant who has known him since they were babies in the same mother and baby group. Upon graduation, he spent a year working and studying on a kibbutz in northern Israel and has since returned for several visits. He's made speeches for the Anti-Defamation League, a well-known pro-Israel Zionist organization. This is the background of the person who's putting on brown face to play an Arab dictator in a fictionalized movie. Let's see how this plays out. The narrator says Aladdin is protected by 30 virgin guards. This already smells like Orientalism. By emphasizing the women are virgins, it pushes the idea that a woman's only value is her virginity. It's an old, tired trope and frames a whole culture as obsessed with purity. There's a mock interview with Larry King and he asks Aladdin if he has nuclear weapons. Here we go. Hollywood loves this story. Arabs crave nukes. For decades, movies have painted Arabs and Muslims as irrational and violent, and the plot is always the same. They're obsessed with destroying the West and Israel. But look at the facts. It's America and Israel who have nuclear weapons. It's estimated America has over 5,000 and Israel has over 90 nuclear warheads. Arab countries have 0, but it's always the same message that Arabs can't be trusted with power. It's a double standard, plain and simple. Aladdin plays dumb.
Do you have nuclear weapons?
What was the question?
Hilariously, this is exactly how Israel handles questions about its nukes.
How many nuclear weapons does Israel have? Because experts say it's anywhere between 80 and 400.
So what?
So what?
Yeah, so what?
Now look at the Arab side. The United States invaded Iraq claiming Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. They found none. Look at Muammar Gaddafi. In 2003, he voluntarily gave up Libya's nuclear program. Yet, Hollywood still paints Arabs as the aggressors. I mentioned Gaddafi because he's the main real-life blueprint for General Aladdin. We get a wide view of the palace and, yeah, there's some problems here. The front part of the palace is copied from the Plaza de España in Spain. The domes are exaggerated and resemble onion domes, but not exactly. They look like Hershey Kisses to me, and it fits because this is a comedy movie. General Aladdin is standing on a balcony talking to his people, saying he's 2 days away from enriching weapons-grade uranium. He says the uranium will only be used for peaceful purposes, but starts laughing as he says it. Then he says it'll certainly never be used to attack then says, oh boy, he means Israel. This is the narrative we're fed in the media all the time, that if Arab countries get a hold of nuclear weapons, they're gonna bomb Israel. A lie told so often by Israel in the West that people now think it's true. This is called propaganda brainwashing. We head to a secret nuclear facility that's just crude oil storage tanks. I'm surprised Cohen didn't ask the IDF what a secret nuclear facility looks like so he can get it looking at least slightly accurate. We see actor Ben Kingsley. He's a half Indian, half British actor who changed his name from Krishna Pandit Banji to Ben Kingsley because his name was being racially profiled and no one would hire him as an actor. He's most famous for playing Gandhi in the 1982 movie of the same name. He goes up to General Aladdin and He kisses his underarms. Okay, that's silly and I think it's funny. A rocket is shown to General al-Din and he's upset because it's small. He says all of his friends have nuclear weapons, even Ahmadinejad, and he means Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, former president of Iran. Iran has never had nuclear weapons. Sasha Baron Cohen is just parodying Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel. For over 35 years, he's been lying about Iran being quote unquote weeks away from having nuclear bombs. And the United States has bombed Iran several times over the decades, all in the name of stopping them from what they claim is getting a nuclear weapon. The US has recently started a war against Iran to destroy its nuclear facilities and missile capabilities. This lie is repeated so often in the media and in movies, like this one, where people start believing it, go to war with a country over it, and the result is a school with over 100 children gets obliterated over lies.
Do you know how much it will cost Americans in terms of their increased cost in gas and food over the next year because of the Iran war?
I would simply ask you what the cost is of an Iranian nuclear bomb.
I'm super happy that people are not believing this propaganda as much anymore, and the majority of Americans are against attacking Iran. General al-Din gets into a discussion about bombs with the scientist Nadal, and it's all to make General al-Din look as stupid as possible because he thinks bombs are like cartoons. This is trying to say, look, Arab dictators are dumb. He repeats wanting the missile to hit Israel. He's talking to Uncle Tamer, Ben Kingsley's character's name, and says,
Real Housewives of Shahan مع فأمة
this is just gibberish that's supposed to sound Arabic as a way to mock the language. But I'm not gonna lie, I laughed a little at it. General al-Din walks out of his car and an assassination attempt is made by a person, but it turns out that was a decoy and not the real al-Din. Uncle Tamer is the one behind the assassination attempt, and oh my goodness, whoa. The contrast between Ben Kingsley's real skin color and his heavily tanned face is jarring. This shows us how much they tanned both Ben Kingsley and Sacha Baron Cohen to make them look as brown coated as possible. Al-Din finds a new body double and his name is Afawadih. Then we go to his bedroom. Look at this painting. It's absurd. There's two layers of hate here. First, it implies Arabs loathe scientific progress. Einstein is the global symbol of genius. Even today, you call someone who's really smart an Einstein. Second, Einstein was Jewish, so it's saying both Arabs are anti-intellectual and anti-Semitic. It's a double-layered insult. He has relations with, early 2010s reference Megan Fox, and takes a photo of her that he sticks up on a wall as photographic proof of his body count. We see other photos and okay, Oprah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's funny. This scene is an allegory on how the rich and powerful get away with doing whatever they want. I argue this is universal throughout the world, and I'm going to talk a bit more about this as it pertains to Arab rulers later on in the video. We see al-Din playing a Wii-style game. He chops off heads to unlock a certain type of vest. This is a direct shot at the 90s and 2000s, referencing tactics used by groups in Palestine to fight Israeli dominance. It feels gross to watch him treat this like a high-score achievement. We see the game selection screen and it lists terrorist attacks that have happened around the world. Revolting. He chooses the Olympics shooting option and we see his character shooting Israelis with an AK-47 gun. This is a reference to the 1972 Summer Olympics Munich massacre. In 1972, the Palestinian militant organization Black September attacked the Munich Olympics. They broke into the Olympic Village, killed 2 Israeli athletes, and took 9 others hostage. During a botched rescue attempt, all 9 hostages were killed. The group named the attack after 2 Palestinian villages. Israel had expelled the people from those villages in 1948. It remains one of the darkest moments in sports history. It's sad to see it being played as a joke here by Sacha Baron Cohen to further trivialize and demonize people. Al-Din goes to New York City and hosts a parade where he's riding on a camel with Lambos following behind. A show of greed and wealth. Camels are such beautiful animals. Enter John C. Reilly playing an American security guard assigned to al-Din. He tells al-Din he hates Arabs. Al-Din tries to deflect, claiming he isn't one. This is called comedic irony and allows Sasha to claim plausible deniability if asked why he made General al-Din Arab. I say he isn't Arab in the movie. If it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. Secondly, this is a direct nod to Muammar Gaddafi. In the later years of his rule, the Libyan dictator tried to distance himself from the Arab world. He claimed he wasn't Arab at all. He shifted the focus to African unity, rebranding himself as an African leader. But it was all a ploy. He wanted a bigger stage. He traded one title for another so he could claim to be the king of kings of the entire African continent. The whole thing was a facade so he could attempt a power grab of Africa. The security guard's response, "You're all Arabs to me." He lumps in everyone. Black people, Jewish people, even the quote-unquote blue queers from Avatar. This is classic Sacha Baron Cohen, attacking Americans too. It's a loud, blunt portrayal of Orientalism. It's trying to tell us that bigoted Americans view the rest of the world as one big, identical other. It's funny, but it's rooted in supremacy and the arrogance of colonialism. It's also tongue-in-cheek because a lot of what the movie is doing is exactly that, trying to reinforce negative stereotypes about people. But I'm wondering if this is actually an inside joke by John C. Reilly trying to tell us he's aware of what this movie is trying to do. The security guard recommends seeing the Empire State Building before General Aladdin or one of his sand monkey cousins takes it down. This is a reference to 9/11, and the racial slur sand monkeys is wildly offensive. This is likely Sacha Baron Cohen's writing given his deeply ingrained Zionist roots. John C. Reilly has been seen waving Palestinian flags in support of the people. Free Palestine. General Aladdin and Uncle Tamer are seen holding hands in many scenes, including this one. This is another clear hint that his character is Arab. Men holding hands is a sign of friendship in the Arab world. It's quite common to see in Kuwait, where I'm from, and in many Arab countries. Assigning a label of homosexual to it is ethnocentric and diminishes cultural practices that have been going on for centuries. Aladdin is laying in bed and we hear ominous Arabic-sounding chanting. A President's Man Lying in the Sand, the Chuck Norris movie I reviewed, uses Arabic chanting every other scene to make it look and sound like Arabs are evil. We get a mock torture scene and the security guard is going to use a device on him and he says,
You're gonna get khara on your trousers.
He says khara. That's the Arabic word for shit. He shows him another tool and Aladdin comments that it's been banned in Saudi Arabia for being too safe. It's implying Saudi Arabia tortures people and they use worse torture devices. I don't think Sacha Baron Cohen had a crystal ball because this did happen to Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. They tortured and murdered him for being critical of the Saudi government, and the Saudi government has officially admitted to doing it. Aladdin escapes with his beard burned off and only wearing his underwear. He tells a homeless man if he gives him his clothes, he'll make a sizable donation in his name to Al-Qaeda. This is implying Arabs support Al-Qaeda, the Sunni extremist transnational terror network founded in 1988 by Osama bin Laden. This movie was filmed in 2011 and likely before Osama bin Laden was killed. Fawadi pees in a jar at the United Nations, then he goes over to the Israeli delegation and pours it all over them. Cohen can't help himself. He has to include moments where Arabs attack Israelis. Even as a quote-unquote joke, it reinforces the same tired narrative of supposed constant aggression, which is just pure projection. Fawadi promises peace by changing Wadia, the name of the country that General Aladdin is from a dictatorship to a democracy. This is political ethnocentrism. It's the arrogant belief that Western-style democracy is the only civilized way to live. It frames any other government as backwards or broken. Democracy doesn't automatically mean a perfectly peaceful country. It suggests the East is lost and needs the West to find enlightenment. It's an old colonial power play that disregards established customs. It treats freedom like a Western export that can only be achieved by their flavor of democracy. It's offensive, lazy, and completely lacks nuance, but it sounds good to a Western audience. Democracy isn't the only way to have a peaceful country. One example is my country, Kuwait. It's a constitutional monarchy that ranks 31 on the Global Peace Index. Qatar is the highest rated Arab country at 27. But wait a minute, where's the United States? A democracy that's really a plutocracy. I see. It's on the next page, rated in the lower half. America's rank is 128. Even lower than Saudi Arabia, which is 90. Just for fun, let's look at Israel's ranking. Ouch, it's in the bottom 10 worst rated peaceful countries in the world. The rank number is 155. Makes sense for a colonizer, ethnocentric nation with nukes that's actively committing genocide. Fawadi greets a crowd. He says, hello person, then he stops and says, hello, black person. It's a moment where Sacha Baron Cohen's racism shines through. We've seen this in Borat, where he literally says the N-word for a laugh.
Bang bang, skeet skeet, nigga.
He gets away with it because he has the "it's just a character" excuse. But when he does it in every single movie, it's just racist.
What's going down in Town, my nigga?
Bang bang, skeet skeet, nigga.
My nigger.
We're gonna see more black and Asian racism later on in this movie, so get ready. Aladdin dons the disguise of Allison Burgers and meets Zoe, played by Anna Faris. She takes him to her store, then says it's her vegan, feminist, non-profit cooperative. They're operating with an anti-racist, anti-oppressive framework for people of all or no genders. That actually sounds incredible, and I would love to shop there. Except think about it. This is supposed to be a punchline to the mainly conservative, foreign-hating, and liberal-hating American and Israeli audiences this movie is aimed at. It's framed as a joke according to this movie. An Arab-coded, loony conservative dictator is going into a liberal store. It's all a setup for mockery. Yep, there it is. She says there's clothes in the lesbian bathroom. Bathrooms aren't segregated by who you have sex with. They're segregated by gender. Side note, there's a massive debate in America about gender segregated bathrooms. The Arabs have solved this problem centuries ago with Arab-style bathrooms. Single occupancy, lockable rooms, or floor-to-ceiling stall doors. You get total privacy while you do your business. Then, everyone shares a common vanity area to wash their hands. This solves every bathroom war issue. You get maximum privacy where it matters and a shared space for everything else. It's practical, inclusive, and efficient. General Aladdin tells Zoe it's adorable that she's educated. He claims men find women's schooling cute but meaningless. This is a textbook Orientalist stereotype. It's a made-up colonial fantasy that Arab men are inherently superior and Arab women are passive or uneducated. It's also flat out wrong. In the real world, Arab women are leaders in science, law, and academia. They're part of an intellectual society. The movie ignores this reality to sell a backwards caricature. It frames the entire East as a place where women's minds don't matter. Let's look at Saudi Arabia. It's a big Arab country with a massive Arab population. By 2010, women officially eclipsed men in college enrollment. Today, Saudi women make up 51.8% of all university students in the country. Women are the majority. The data doesn't lie. The uneducated Arabian woman trope is both offensive and dead. As I predicted, the inclusive shop was a setup to attack people. He makes fun of a woman with no hands, an African descent man, where he asks him to bring him 100 child soldiers because of the stereotype of child soldiers in Africa. Now Aladdin is turning into Bora and it's dumb. Later on in the movie, he straight up says this about him.
Captain Hook and Blackie.
The movie shows women being brought to Fawad's room. It leans into a common critique, the hypocritical Arab ruler. The trope suggests these leaders enforce strict, ultra-religious laws on their people while breaking every rule behind closed doors. We can see this playing out in reality. Despite Jeffrey Epstein being a convicted sex trafficker back in 2008, several Arab rulers have been caught corresponding with him via email and taking pictures with him. They profess to be moral models, yet their private lives tell a different story. This double standard is a valid target for satire. But I'm not just ruling out Arab rulers. We know Epstein's guest list included the entire world's most powerful people, but it hits differently when a leader claims to rule by strict conservative religious laws. They demand total moral purity from their people while associating with a monster behind the scenes. It is the ultimate hypocrisy. Fawad is portrayed as sexually clueless, so dumb he tries to literally milk one of the women like he does his sheep. You could read this as a jab at Arab men being incompetent or backwards regarding women, but the movie frames it as him being a simple sheep herder from the countryside. It's less of a deep message about Arab masculinity and more of a cheap fish out of water gag. Aladdin's working at the store when a child is rude to him and we see him kick a kid. Is this supposed to be funny? Because I don't get it. Dude, it's slapstick. But as someone who's seen every single Three Stooges movie, I don't ever remember seeing them hitting a child. This is just mean. Aladdin catches a guy stealing from the register. The guy mocks him. Who are you? Osama bin Laden's best friend? Aladdin jokes back that bin Laden is actually staying in his guest house. This plays into a tired conspiracy theory that Arab countries are one giant safe house for terrorists. Every Arab leader is secretly harboring the world's most wanted men. It's the same old propaganda used to justify endless suspicion of an entire region. Here's some truth. The Saudis hated bin Laden. They revoked his citizenship and froze his assets in 1994. There isn't even a hint of truth to this idea, but that's the point, right? To spread lies. Aladdin is in a goofy American flag-inspired disguise, but he wants to add to the disguise. So what does he do? Throws Asian racism into the movie. Aladdin pulls his eyelids back and does a mocking Asian accent.
So when we go to fly, don't do this. I'm Chinese American.
He jokes about R's becoming L's. Then he does it again, claiming to be Filipino. He ends the scene by quote-unquote walking black, saying that's how they walk. Honestly, what is this? All I see is Sacha Baron Cohen venting his own racism. He uses the comedy label as a shield to reinforce the ugliest stereotypes imaginable, and it feels bizarre. It isn't humor when a joke has no point other than, look at what I think this race does. What it really is a minstrel show. Why is this in a major motion picture? Because the shield of character acting lets him get away with being a straight up racist. Aladdin is in a helicopter with Nidal, and they're speaking a mock gibberish Arabic-like language. They're saying things that sound similar to 9/11, but they're actually talking about the car by Porsche. They say Osama bin Laden with zoom-ins to their lips. We see him open his jacket and it looks like a bomber vest. Then he starts doing a countdown. The Americans scream and it cuts to them getting arrested. This whole scene is doubling down on American hysteria. You can make the argument it's making social commentary on how quickly Americans label Arabs as terrorists. But remember, he was purposefully saying certain trigger words, so that argument doesn't fit. We're at the police station and Zoe is defending Aladdin. She says the police are profiling him and it makes her out to look like a hero. But remember, he was saying trigger words on purpose. What this scene is really doing is mocking progressive Americans who blindly defend people even when there is grounds for suspicion. It's making people look foolish for defending Muslims and framing them as naive for trusting them. It wants to say profiling is common sense when it comes to Arabs and Muslims. It's really dangerous rhetoric. It leads to incidents like when a man was arrested and deboarded from a plane last year. Why? A call for a prayer alarm was playing from his phone as a reminder. The Americans on the plane lost their collective minds and even claimed he had a bomb. A military team showed up and forcibly deboarded him from the plane. No credible threat was found and all charges were dropped. Aladdin claims he was sexually assaulted. Zoe mentions a support center for rape victims. Aladdin flips the script, saying he'll bring his quote-unquote raping shoes, implying that he's the one who's going to be committing the crimes. One could argue it paints Arab men as predators who see women as objects, but honestly, it just reads as a desperate shock value gag. It's taking a horrific subject and turning it into a dumb guy punchline. It's not clever, it's not insightful, and it doesn't land. It just makes me feel sick for even hearing it. He doubles down on this quote-unquote joke when he goes to Zoe, saying he wants to have relations with her, but she says she won't and that he needs to touch himself. He claims he doesn't know what that means, and she says she'll show him, and his response is, "Are you going to take me to the rape center?" implying he's going to touch himself while he's there. Sickening. He says he learns how to make his own lebna. The fact that he's using the word lebna. Lebna is a thick, tangy, and creamy Middle Eastern strained yogurt. You typically eat it with khubz or pita bread, like with hummus. In this scene, he uses the word balboul, which is funny because that's Kuwaiti slang for the male member. Does it mean the same thing in Hebrew? Let me know in the comments. We get a scene where Aladdin is battling a large-chested soldier. There's comedic moments, including a Shining reference. Sorry I can't show you any of it on YouTube, but I do want to say that I thought parts of it were funny. Aladdin starts changing from his dictator ways and sides with Zoe. They're protesting outside a competing grocery store. He makes a crass remark about Zoe's appearance, and I want to talk about it. Aladdin spends the whole movie mocking Zoe's appearance, claiming she looks like a man. None of it lands. The only people who would see these as jokes or would laugh at them would be misogynists. I'm not seeing any satire here, and there's no clever commentary on gender roles or cultural clashes. It just feels like flat out slander. Another thing they do throughout the movie is they do covers of famous American songs but do them with Arabic. There's also musical instrumentation that sounds surprisingly Arab. I'll give the movie credit. They did their homework on the music. It sounds authentic and Typically, Hollywood movies rarely are when it comes to Arabic-sounding music. Aladdin mocks Zoe's body, then Nadal brings up the Menudo incident. The joke implies Aladdin preys on children. Menudo was a popular Puerto Rican boy band from the 1970s whose members are all young boys. It suggests Arab dictators aren't just hypersexual towards women, they're violent predators towards children too. The funny thing is, it's a massive distraction from reality. Look at the Jeffrey Epstein case. The guy was convicted in 2008. The vast majority of his clients and associates were American and Israeli, Christian and Jewish, not Arab or Muslim. I'm not saying there's a correlation or stereotyping, I'm just stating what we know so far. The data shows where the real network of abuse lives. But Hollywood would rather you laugh at a fictional Arab predator than look at the actual predators in the West. It's a classic case of projection. They take a Western crisis and wear it as an Arab costume. Need I remind you of the Catholic Church or the Southern Baptist Church when it comes to these things? The same point is repeated and reinforced later in the movie. Aladdin says, "It's like a 10-year-old boy's. Normally I don't kiss a 10-year-old boy's stomach. They kiss mine." Completely disgusting. We get a scene with actor J.B. Smoove, who's famous for being in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Just like in Borat, Sasha Baron Cohen can't help but say the N-word.
My nigger.
Then he tells him he's sorry about how Whitney turned out, and he means Whitney Houston, implying he thinks this person is Bobby Brown. And what's the point of this anyways? To make Arabs look racist? I argue it's just Sacha Baron Cohen letting the mask slip and showing his bigotry with the defense of, "It's just a comedy movie, bro." We see him double down on this racism later in the movie. Aladdin calls a different black character Morgan Freeman, because all black people look the same, right Sasha? A woman is giving birth, and when Aladdin finds out it's a girl, he asks, "Where's the trash can?" This is Orientalism in two layers. First, it claims Arab men don't value women. Second, it implies Arabs commit female infanticide, which is a flat-out lie. The movie is hijacking a real, tragic issue and pinning it on the wrong culture. It's a complex humanitarian crisis, but the movie doesn't care about facts. It's a smear tactic designed to make the other, aka anyone who isn't from the West, look the same, and I find it monstrous. Aladdin says to Nadal, "You are such a schmuck." A schmuck is an American slang term derived from Yiddish, meaning foolish or stupid. He says he picked up the word because he's in New York, a city known for its high Jewish population. Nadal responds with, "We're trying to erase that country off the map," meaning Israel. This is a core argument of the Zionist narrative, the claim that Arabs want to eradicate Israel. It's a strategy used to boil a complex struggle down to a simple victim story. Everyone hates us and the world is out to kill us. This narrative flips reality. It hides the fact that Israel is the colonizer, constantly attacking and displacing Palestinians. They repeat this lie to justify mass killings. Look at the numbers since October 7, 2023. About 70,000 Palestinians have been killed. Experts estimate that 70% of those victims are women and children. About 2,000 Israelis have died. It's a tactic used to maintain a one-sided occupation through superior force and is constantly parodied in movies like this to brainwash you into thinking it actually has even a little bit of truth, which it doesn't. There's a funny joke about how Crocs are the universal symbol of a man who has given up hope. Okay, I agree with that one. Nadal jokes that the new constitution will bring free press, women drivers, and civil rights. Aladdin asks what civil rights even are. It's a sharp jab, but let's look at the data. First, women drivers. In 2011, when this movie was being made, Saudi Arabia was the only Arab country that banned women from driving. So it's taking one country's specific law and pinning it on the entire Arab world as a lazy generalization. Saudi Arabia changed the law and has allowed women to drive since 2018. Next, free press. The Press Freedom Index paints a grim picture. Arab countries consistently rank in the bottom 100. However, the Free West isn't perfect either. America ranks at 57, and Israel often falls into the lower 100 alongside many Arab nations. It's a classic propaganda move. Call out the other for a problem that you have yourself. Speaking of press freedom, I want to point out a recent negative example. An American Kuwaiti journalist was detained in Kuwait for 52 days for sharing public news, photos, and videos about the United States-Iran war. Everything he shared was already public. He was eventually acquitted, but the fact that he was held at all is shameful. Finally, civil rights. The data is tough. On a scale of 0 to 1, The United States scores 0.83 and Israel scores 0.79. Most Arab countries score below 0.5, though Jordan hits 0.67. In this case, the critique is fair. The Arab region has a long way to go. We have to be honest with ourselves. The Arab world can and should do better. We can't ignore the data. We have to learn from it to become better. Now, I'm not absolving the movie's attack on Arabs, but I can say when it comes to press freedom, this is a fair jab. Nadal starts naming what he calls great dictators. Hussein, Gaddafi, Kim Jong, and Cheney. That's funny, calling Dick Cheney a dictator. Dick Cheney was vice president to George W. Bush. Before that, he was CEO of Halliburton from 1995 to 2000. Halliburton is an American multinational corporation and the world's second largest oil service company. When the drums of the Iraq invasion were starting to beat in 2001, Cheney rallied for the fight. Some say he was the lead architect, aggressively pushing for the invasion of Iraq. Once Iraq was liberated, the spoils of war were handed out. Take a wild guess to which company secured the most lucrative contracts to manage Iraq's oil fields. None has benefited more than KBR, once known as Kellogg Brown and Root. The controversial former subsidiary of Halliburton, which was once run by Dick Cheney, vice president to George W. Bush, was awarded at least $39.5 billion in federal contracts related to the Iraq War over the past decade. What was the real cost of getting their hands on Iraq's oil? An estimated 4,492 United States service members killed in Iraq. Approximately 200,000 Iraqi civilians killed in the war, destabilizing the region, which gave the perfect breeding ground for ISIS to arise. And all of it was to get control of the oil and retain the petrodollar throughout the world. Good job, America. The real Aladdin swaps with the body double, and he's about to sign the Constitution, but then rips it up. He goes on a hilarious tirade saying, imagine if America was a dictatorship and what it would do. Then lists every single thing America actually does.
You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth.
This is satire. It's exposing what America really is, and it's funny. If the movie was full of this rather than made up Orientalist stereotypes, it would have been decent. Too bad it loses the strength in the satire because Sasha Baron Cohen is doing a brown-faced minstrel show. He's talking from the point of view of an Arab, making it look like Arabs are mocking Americans. He calls for a real democracy, a real constitution, and real elections in Wadiya, which the crowd applauds to, and the triumphant music starts playing. Zoe embraces Aladdin, and he says he'll make her one of his wives. Okay, only wife. Ah yes, the good old Arab men have multiple wives stereotype. This is a classic Orientalist trope. It's a lazy caricature used to paint the region as exotic or backwards to satisfy Western imaginations. Here's the reality. In the vast majority of the Arab world, polygyny is extremely rare. Outside of specific parts of the Arabian Peninsula and the Gulf, it's a social outlier. This movie's taking a legal exception and frames it as a cultural rule. It's a distortion designed to make the Arab world look like a hyper-sexualized fantasy rather than a modern society where the overwhelming majority of families are monogamous. Zoe's response is to offer to shave her armpits, but this comes off as weird. I know this is supposed to be a joke, but framing it as a peace offering is a false equivalency. The movie is positioning a woman's personal grooming choice on the same level as the systematic practice of polygyny. It suggests that for an Arab man to compromise on having multiple wives, a progressive woman must compromise on her bodily autonomy. By equating a superficial Western beauty standard with a fundamental martial structure, Cohen trivializes both. It frames progressive values as a set of quirky, negotiable habits rather than principles. It's a cynical way of saying that everyone's extremism, whether it's a dictator's harem or a woman's body hair, is equally ridiculous and should be traded away. Aladdin asks her to stop using her organic deodorant because he says that you could gas the Kurds with that stench. This is a reference to the Halabja massacre. On March 16, 1988, thousands of Kurds were killed by a large-scale Iraqi chemical attack. It was ordered by Iraqi military officer Ali Hassan al-Majid. This massacre remains the largest chemical weapons attack directed against a civilian population region in human history. It killed between 3,200 and 5,000 people and injured 7,000 to 10,000 more. But I have no idea why he specifically put this in the movie. It's not funny because I think of it like this. What if he made a comment about gassing another group of people? But since it's at the expense of the Orientalist other, the joke is okay to make. Or so he thinks. They head back to Wadia, and there's a joke where they say in the first free elections, General Al-Adin won 98.8% of the vote. Then it shows a tank forcing people to go to the Al-Adin voting booth. It's funny, but it also implies that even if Arab countries have free elections, it's still going to be rigged. It's saying more about how the world thinks of Arabia than anything else. That even if Arab countries switch to democracy, the West will still think it's unfair. There's no winning with them. Al-Adin and Zoe get married. Zoe crushes a wrapped glass under her foot, a Jewish wedding tradition. She says she's Jewish. He says it's fine, hugs her, then signals to one of his guards to kill her. Because love doesn't surpass the fabricated, constant hatred of the Jewish people. Or at least, that's what Sacha Baron Cohen is trying to propagandize. What do I think of this movie? At its core, The Dictator is a lazy attempt at satire. It hides behind absurdity and shock value, but the joke keeps landing in the same place, reinforcing old, familiar stereotypes about Arabs. Yes, I did laugh a few times. Yes, there are moments where it almost says something interesting. It's maybe 5% smarter than Borat, but that doesn't change what it constantly does. The humor leans on a caricature of Arab identity that's violent, backward, and misogynistic. And it keeps going back to that over and over again. The shield or defense here is, it's not about Arabs, it's about dictators. I don't think that holds up. If the target is dictatorship, the jokes shouldn't rely this heavily on cultural stereotypes to land. When nearly every punchline aligns with the same Orientalist tropes, the framing stops mattering. If your satire only works when the audience already believes the negative stereotypes, then all it's doing is reinforcing them. Ethically, I would put this movie higher than Borat because it's not exploiting real people for reactions. But the underlying idea is still the same. The civilized West versus backwards East dynamic. It's just packaged differently. Where does it land on the Habibi movie tier list? I thought about putting it in F tier, but it doesn't deserve that. The movie is very clear in its anti-Arab messaging. I'm putting it in Z tier. It pretends to critique ignorance while depending on it to get laughs. The Dictator is a relic of a narrow-minded worldview that has no place in a world that has the data to prove it wrong. You know, it strangely reminds me of the Papa John's slogan. Better ingredients, better pizza. They repeat it so often that you start to feel like it's true, until you actually eat a slice and realize it's all marketing. This is the same playbook. Repeat a message enough, paint a group as dangerous, backward, or less than, and eventually people start to accept it without question. But propaganda doesn't make something true. In real life, Arabs are kind, generous, and deeply hospitable people. Don't confuse repetition with truth. Look past the branding, past the noise, and judge people by real experiences, not recycled stereotypes. When you do that, the picture changes, and it's a lot more human, a lot more honest, and a lot more hopeful.